Equal employment. In this section, we will be discussing equal opportunity employment and workplace diversity. Equal opportunity employment ensures that everyone, no matter their age, race, sex, religion, or any other perceived difference, is treated equally and fairly. In today's workforce, it is essential that you refrain from any discriminatory thoughts or actions because it can lead you to serious trouble, including lawsuits and potentially loss of a job. Let's see how Gary Wheeler, former UPS SR HR Director and current President and CEO of the Virtual HR Director, approaches these theories in practice.
Why is it important to promote diversity in the workplace? Primarily because we are a diverse culture. The U.S. is much more diverse than it's ever been. We are in a global economy or a global culture which is promoting more and more diversity. We're not isolated to just us anymore. So diversity is important in order to grow your business internally as well as reach customers, with diverse backgrounds. Diversity has actually become a strategic business imperative for most businesses across the U.S., meaning that they need to have a diversity philosophy and strategy that is parallel with their overall business strategy. Diversity is not about one person. It's not about a VP of diversity. It has to be a part of an organization strategy. So in my case, I was the workforce diversity manager, and my focus was on those activities or those things to help strengthen our organization from a workforce perspective. But then there's also the consumer or customer diversity, and usually that person resides within the business development or sales department. And what are we doing from a customer perspective? Hence, all commercials aren't the same to reach all target markets. We also had a supplier diversity manager, someone who would work on those vendors that we purchased our goods from. In addition to that, we had a community diversity manager, someone that would help promote UPS within a community to make sure we're doing the right things, touching the right people. So it's really about having a total strategy encompassing not just the workforce and the workplace, but also the marketplace as well as the communities that the business serves. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of a diverse workforce? Disadvantages. You get too much groupthink and you don't have any opposition, so it stifles creativity. So having a diverse workforce or diverse workplace, you're able to have more creative ideas to come up with better solutions because we're all not the same. And of course, often when people think of diversity, they think of race, age, and gender, which is three critical components. Those are the core legal components of diversity. But it also includes thinking styles, marital status, family situations, educational background, ethnic background, sexual orientation, geographical location, work experience. Those can all add to the creativity and the productivity of the organization. How do you handle it when you have employees that have some type of hostility against other demographics entering the workplace? What can you do as an employer to get past that? I'm going to go to education. I think the first thing you need to educate your employees or have an educational process that this is what's happening in the world. The second piece of that is you need to have some type of discussion, whether it's in focus group meetings or some type of in a classroom training piece where people are able to talk about it and talk through those challenges that they may have. Now you can also do a lot of creative things. One of the things that I've always found to be very successful in my work groups is I've had some type of community activity where I would say, okay, we're going to go work at a homeless shelter, or we're going to go work somewhere where we all have to do something together and participate. And in doing that, you're helping people, but you're also engaged. People are getting engaged in terms of conversation about their backgrounds, their understanding. And at the end of the day, you find out that we all bleed blue, I like to say, that we're all really the same. Everyone's looking for the same thing. They're looking for a good job, they're looking for compensation, they're looking for a healthy home life, and getting people working together, sometimes outside of their normal job or comfort zone, can help build relationships.
In this segment, Gary Wheeler, the former UPS Human Resources Director, talks about how to promote diversity in the workplace. He points out that diversity must be a part of an organization's strategy. At UPS, in addition to employee diversity efforts, they employed a supplier diversity manager and a community diversity manager. Mr. Wheeler says that the disadvantage of a non-diverse workforce is groupthink due to a lack of opposition, and that non-diversity actually stifles creativity. He says that employers should educate and encourage discussions about diversity as well as take creative steps to get employees to work outside their normal job or comfort zone, such as volunteering at a homeless shelter. Based on what you saw in this video and what you've read in the chapter, what else would you do to deal with employees who are hostile to the idea of diversity? What other specific steps would you include in your diversity strategy?
Well, sexual harassment definitely has changed over the years. It definitely was much more prevalent 30 years ago in most workplaces. Education and training is the most important part, making sure people understand what sexual harassment is. And sexual harassment today has actually just become harassment. All right, so because it could be male, male, female, female, male, female, female, male. Now the EEOC requires that you train employees periodically, and that generally means every year, at least every 2 years, there should be some type of mini refresher on what's acceptable and what's not. It makes people aware. So the person who's going to be the offender is going to be less likely to do that if they know that there's going to be some consequence. But it definitely, if there's an education process in place and there's a reoccurring reminder for employees and there's a penalty for people doing that, it should go away. The way UPS receives its EEO or harassment type complaints, several opportunities or several avenues that an employee can take to go to their immediate supervisor, any other supervisor or manager within the organization, or a 1-800 number where they can leave it anonymously, or they can identify who they are. Now, the way it's handled is Human Resources gets involved on any complaint, and a representative will come out and investigate that situation thoroughly to determine what has happened and how to best remedy the situation. I found that usually it's a communications problem from one party to the other. And again, people with diverse backgrounds, different lifestyles, have different approaches and value systems, not really understanding each other. And giving both parties an opportunity to sit down and share their side of the story with each other and help mediate how to best resolve that is always a win-win for everybody if you can get to that without going to an outside organization. As that generation does move forward and getting older, it will definitely open up opportunities for the generations behind it. It's going to allow a lot of opportunity for younger workers, Generation X, Generation Y, and those after to move up into organizations and key positions, which is great, which is really great. But when you look at the numbers, there actually isn't enough. Hence, one of the reasons why we not only have but need a high immigration rate. If all the boomers retired when they could retire, there would not be enough workers in the U.S. to fill all the positions and opportunities.
In this segment, Gary Wheeler says that UPS employees have various options for filing harassment-type complaints and that the HR department quickly gets involved in such complaints. He said he usually finds that such complaints reflect a communication problem from one party to the other. Based on this segment and what you've learned in the chapter, to what extent do you believe that harassment, such as sexual harassment, is usually primarily a communications problem, and why? In this video, Mr. Wheeler focuses mostly on diversity and on sexual harassment. Discuss 5 other important aspects of equal employment opportunity at work that are also important. Now take a moment to consider the following hypothetical situation. As a human resources representative, how would you approach the following?
You have an African American female over 45 that you have just terminated. She goes to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission and decides to file a charge, an EEOC charge. You receive that charge in the mail. there are 4 things specifically the EEOC is going to be looking for in your response. What are those 4 specific areas?